All righty. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Emily Kile, and I'm an attorney in the Scottsdale area. And I practice in elder law and estate planning and guardianships and conservatorships. And I'm just so thrilled that you all were able to join us today. And as I told Lin Sue, I'm like starstruck after watching her on TV for many, many, many years and having her in my living room. So I'm just absolutely thrilled to have her on board here today for her to give us a little bit of her time and her knowledge and some information about some programs that Hospice of the Valley has. So she joined Hospice of the Valley in 2015 after more than 30 years as a primary news anchor at 12 News. A 9-time Emmy Award-winning reporter, she graduated cum laude from Wilmette University and received her Master's of Journalism degree from the P.L.L.C School of Journalism at Northwestern University. She manages marketing and public relations, overseeing community-facing departments, including volunteers, fund and business development, and creative services. And she and her standard poodle, Max, also volunteer as a pet therapy team. We are a pet-friendly office here. My dog is asleep on the floor, so we love to have our pets with us. If anybody has any questions throughout the program, feel free to type them either into the Q&A or the chat. It doesn't make any difference. And I will monitor those and do my best to jump in and let Lin Sue know that we have some questions. And so we will be very respectful of your time. Our program runs for an hour. And I always feel really weird at the end because I have to just hit end the meeting for all. We don't have an opportunity to chat with each other afterwards or say hello or give each other a hug. So I apologize for the abruptness that it seems always to me when these things end. So with that, again, thank you so much, Lin Sue, for being with us, and very much look forward to hearing your presentation. So thank you.
Oh, Emily, thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here. It's my favorite thing to share and educate about hospice. It's not that different from what I did in news, actually, share and educate, but there's so many things about hospice and Hospice of the Valley in particular, because we're a nonprofit, that people don't know we provide. So my goal is today that everybody walks away and goes, I didn't know they did that. And I always say this because people have come up to me later, sometimes years later, and said, when I heard you speak, I didn't have a need for hospice. But then a few months later, my grandma, my neighbor, my coworker, and then I knew some things that I could tell them. So you never know when you're going to need our care or hospice care. So I just want to make sure that you have all your questions answered, and feel free to jump in anytime. So there are just a few important things I want you to know. Number one, for 43 years, and that's how long Hospice of the Valley's been around, we are the safety net, regardless of whether you have insurance or Medicare or money in the bank. We will care for you no matter what your ability to pay is, because we're a nonprofit. So people just need to know that. I think it scares people away from hospice because they think there's a hidden cost. And if you are a for-profit hospice, obviously they operate very, very differently. So if you are, let me see if I can get my slide to change here. There we go. If you're a for-profit business like a restaurant, and you can't pay, obviously they can't serve you. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how our economy runs. But Hospice of the Valley is kind of like the soup kitchen of the world. Where would we be without the soup kitchens? So when it comes to end-of-life care and many other kinds of care, we are just like that because we serve everyone. So our founders, these are 3 of them, they instilled that mission to serve all who came from us. The one on the left is a preacher, as you can tell. All 3 of them are still with us. They're wonderful. They started this hospice in 1977. We were the first in Arizona, one of the first in the nation. And Medicare didn't pay for hospice until 1982. So that meant all those nurses and social workers who went out there were volunteers. They didn't get paid. So if somebody needed medicine and the family couldn't pay for it, they went out in the community and raised the money to provide that care. So that's still in our DNA. We're all about the care. We don't worry about the reimbursement. It's the same care whether you have Medicare or insurance or not a penny to your name. So that's the most important thing. In fact, we provide hospice care to homeless people at a respite center downtown called Circle the City. So obviously we're not getting paid for that. So that is the first and last thing I want you to know. Unlike the other, there might be like 80 now other hospices in the Valley. They're all for profit. There are 2 nonprofits, including us. We don't want anybody to go on an end-of-life journey and not have the emotional, spiritual, social, and medical support just because they don't have money or they don't have insurance. So, by the way, does anybody know how we got our name? Because we live in the Valley of the, I hear you all saying sun, and because that preacher that you saw on the previous page said that all of our patients were traveling through the valley of the shadow of death. So that is why we're Hospice of the Valley. You may wonder, how in the world do you care for everyone who comes to us? If you want to add up the dollars, last year it was $10.5 million that we spent on charity care. And it is because, in large part, because of the community. We have lots of donations and lots of volunteers who help us. And of course, we are super frugal as a nonprofit with the dollars that Medicare does pay us to care for those who are covered. Before we talk about the kinds of care, I think people need to know what is hospice, because they're not really sure of the definition, but it is compassionate care that focuses on quality of life for people, not just who are at end of life, but their caregivers, so the whole family. You have an advanced life-limiting illness, terminal illness. You're in the last phases of a disease that cannot be cured. And we're going to help you live with comfort and dignity and to live as fully as possible and enjoy every moment that you have left. That is the goal of hospice care. It isn't a cure because it's an incurable disease. So there are lots of myths of hospice. First of all, hospice must be really expensive because these care teams come into your home. Well, it's not, because I just told you that Medicare covers it. If you don't have Medicare, say you're 44 and you get, advanced breast cancer, and you don't have Medicare because you're not 65, and then your insurance company would pay for it. But if you get fired from your job and you don't have insurance, Hospice of the Valley will care for you. The other one is you lose your doctor. You don't lose your doctor. Your physician is the most important person who knows your whole history of care. And if they choose, and you choose, to have them involved in your end-of-life care, they partner with the medical directors at Hospice of the Valley so that they know exactly how you're being cared for. Some primary care physicians feel more comfortable letting the medical director at the hospice take over, but that certainly is not the rule. They can be as part of your care as much as they want. All hospices are the same. You hear that? Well, obviously they're not. Just like all law firms are not the same, right? All grocery stores, all music is not the same. When it comes to businesses, just like hospice care, they vary in their level of expertise, companionship, the culture that they work with, the longevity and the professionalism and the degrees of the people who are providing the care. And we have the most certified palliative and hospice care providers, healthcare providers in our hospice than any other in the state. So they're not all the same. And obviously the other 99% don't take everyone. So that's the biggest point of difference, I would say. You can't change your mind. So people say, I'm not going to go on hospice yet, because once I'm on hospice, there's nothing to do but just die. And I need to wait till the very last minute. Well, that's not true. A lot of people have had many, many rounds of curative chemo and their body's very broken down, and they come onto hospice because their doctors say, you can't have another round of chemo. You are not well enough to have that. But then something amazing happens, and you get that care, and the lesions heal, and you get stronger, and your appetite comes back, and all of a sudden you are strong enough to have another round of chemo. You sign yourself off of hospice, you pursue that treatment, and if it works for a while longer, great. If not, hospice is waiting for you when you finish the curative route. Your benefit does not go away. As you can see, the next one, it doesn't run out. Medicare has it sitting there, and it's yours to use. And you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to use it all up if I get on it. Some people are on hospice for years because once they get on hospice, something amazing happens. And that goes to the last point. They actually extend their life. Because think about it, if you are trying really aggressive, harsh curative treatments and your body is really broken down, sometimes the treatments end your life quicker than the disease would. If you opt for comfort care, at a point when you're psychologically ready for that and your body's ready for it, then you actually can extend your life because the curative treatment isn't breaking you down even more. So it just depends on everybody's individual case, and there's no crystal ball. When it's right, it's really between the family, the patient, and the doctor.
And to that point, Lin Sue, we've heard a lot in our office when somebody has a disease such as Alzheimer's or a dementia, and I've said, you know, you might want to look into hospice. You could get some family support and maybe a nurse to check on a regular basis and have some help with showering. And their concern is that there isn't you know, they think the person has to die within, you know, 2 months of the date that they might be eligible for hospice. So can you talk maybe a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, and so that is another program that we have. So it's actually two-part. So we have found that 30% of our patients who are on hospice for cancer or liver disease or lung disease actually have dementia because they're old enough that they also have dementia. So 30% of our hospice patients have two diagnoses. Now, for those who are not at end of life and they have dementia, early stage, mid stage, we have a separate program that isn't hospice, and that one is free. And we will talk about that. So it's awesome. So now that you know we care for everyone and that we spent $10.5 million in charity care, I just want you to know that the charity care isn't always medical. Sometimes it looks like this. It's a gift card. We go into someone's home, we open the refrigerator, and there's no food in there. We go to tuck them in bed and their sheets have holes in it and they're not wearing pajamas. They have ratty t-shirts with holes in them. We look across the room and their teenage kids are sleeping on mattresses on the floor. School is about to start and they don't have backpacks. So that's what I love about Hospice of the Valley. We have resources because we have 5 thrift stores where our social workers can go in and they can get backpacks and they just give them to the kids. We call up community partners and say, we need some bunk beds to put mattresses on. And they come through. We are able to go and get the pajamas and the sheets out of our White Dove store, and we are able to get donations and give them gift cards so they can go to Safeway and get some food, or buy a Uber ride so they can see a doctor or a dentist, something like that. So our charity care looks very different. Sometimes it looks just like a gift card. Now, we talked about some of the things that we do with hospice, but we have so many other programs. And one of them that's super unique and makes Hospice of the Valley different is our MediCaring program. When you are on hospice, you have to give up curative treatment. And Medicare requires that. You are signing on to comfort care. However, there are people in the healthcare field that say people would do a lot better if they could have their chemo and also have a hospice team come into their home and keep them comfortable. And as the treatments become too much or they no longer prolong your life, their hospice team has already been seeing them for years. And they transition into care that is going to be hospice, but it's not a care they're not familiar with, and it's not a team they're not familiar with. They're already comfortable and bonded with this team. And sometimes instead of coming onto hospice days or hours or weeks, they could be there months or years and have both kinds of care. So Medicare chose a handful of hospices around the country to do this program and test it, do a pilot program called MediCaring, and we're the only hospice in Arizona that does it. So if there's somebody really critically ill that you know about that is afraid of hospice, but actually could benefit from being on MediCaring, getting that MediCaring team in there, who's also going to be their hospice team years and years down the road, please let us know. This is mostly for cancer patients, but for AIDS patients and people like that. The doctors do have to make sure that you're eligible, but it is an amazing program, and we're really trying to collect data to show Medicare they should pay for this because it does improve longevity, does improve quality of life, letting people have curative and comfort care at the same time. So they're not afraid of going on hospice because they have to give up curative care. So the other thing is, we provide so many other services. We can help so many other ways in our community that has nothing to do with hospice care, and you don't have to be a patient of ours. You just have to live in our community. We've been here so long, and people come to us and they say, Mom is really sick. She's not ready for hospice, but she will be down the road, but she can't live alone anymore. What do I do? I don't have $1,000 or $3,000 to hire a senior placement service. Well, we have this same service, and it's free. We give you a list, just like they do, of approved group homes or assisted living or skilled living facilities that are in your area, that are in your budget, that have the level of care your loved one needs. So if you know somebody that needs that, we do senior placement at no charge. We also help people with living wills. It's really hard for sons and daughters to say, Mom and Dad, it's time to talk about your living will when you pass away. But a hospice person who's there to help you be comfortable and think about the future is very, very trained and skilled at starting those conversations and letting them know that, you know, it's a gift. So they don't have to guess what you want. And then you don't have to talk about it again because you've decided. So it's another free service that we offer. And we also have the forms. We have another program that many people have, once they find out we do it, have utilized. In fact, I used it in my cardiologist's office when I found out that the nurse who was about to see me had just been told that the baby that she was carrying was not going to make it. So this is a perinatal support program. We're the only ones who do it. It's for couples who are pregnant. This couple, Sam and Jolie, went in, had an ultrasound, and the technician got up and left the room very quickly and came back with a doctor. And that's when she knew she was going to get some bad news. And they said, your baby's brain is mostly water. It's not going to survive much longer after birth. We suggest you terminate. But they're LDS, and they didn't believe in termination. But now she has to carry a baby for 9 months that she knows isn't going to live long. So she's grieving. So she needs support. On the day of delivery, she needs a photographer there to take a few tasteful photos because the skull was not perfectly formed. We had a little cap so she could show her other siblings someday this was your sister. We had everyone in the family there because they didn't know how long they had, and we had a clergy person there to do a quick baptism. Little Mary Margaret lived 106 minutes and passed in Daddy Sam's arms, and they now have a healthy, happy 3-year-old. But she was on that program all of the pregnancy, after the death, and then when she got pregnant again because she was afraid every time the baby didn't kick, it was going to start all over again. So these families can be with us for 3 years. This is a free program. We do it with Ryan House and Phoenix Children's Hospital. So please let folks know about that. Dementia care. So Emily mentioned this. This is amazing. So just like we send hospice teams into your home, we have dementia teams, and they come in and they're really there to help the stressed caregiver, because if you're keeping the dementia patient happy and safe, they're good, but the caregiver doesn't know how to do that, and they're going nuts. Because how do you handle it when your loved one asks you, when you're having lunch 14 times in 3 minutes and you just served them lunch? So there is, I mean, it's so easy to snap, and once you've done that, you've alienated the person that needs to trust you. They fight you back, they don't cooperate, they don't know who you are, they feel unsafe, and the dynamics in the home are all wrong. So this program, thanks to a federal grant that we got, is free to everyone for the next 3 years. So if you have someone who is struggling with early, mid, or advanced stage dementia, you need to call us and get on this free program. It's amazing. And while we're talking about dementia, I have to give you a peek at what we're building at 44th Street. Oh, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so I just want to confirm, though, that dementia care does not provide the caregiver, right? It's the support to the caregiver.
Correct. Correct. However, the neat thing about it is it does, given availability, and not now during COVID because we can't have face-to-face, it does provide a volunteer who comes into the home and can read, take walks, help the caregiver. So the caregiver can actually leave for 4 hours, go to church, go to the doctor, go get their hair done, go to lunch, go to the next room and sleep, to give them a break. So there is a volunteer companionship component of that, but the educator is there to help them. But there is a medical doctor who gives advice. So say there are behaviors and they're hitting, they're yelling, they're wandering. they're banging their head, they're doing things. Our doctor does help with medication, does help with behavior strategies, does help if they need to come into our inpatient unit and get medications under control and get behaviors under control. They can do that for 3 to 5 days and give the caregiver time to just, or say you get the flu and you can't take care of the one that you love who has dementia safely, they would come into our inpatient unit. That's all covered. It's free.
Yeah, because the question was about whether hospice provides a home care benefit. And my understanding is that there is no home care benefit through hospice, and for Medicare in general, that if the person needs occupational or speech or therapies at home, then Medicare could cover some of those. But there's no hospice benefit to provide an actual caregiver at the house for 2 or 3 hours a day, correct?
No, that's a home care provision, and to my knowledge, no one has that. You pay for home care by the hour. That would be awesome, and we know that that's a hardship on people. At this point, there isn't anything like that, so there's just the short-term education. Sometimes, though, just getting that break with a companion is enough. Until it gets very advanced. And then we can help with placement in a safe facility, memory care facility, when the caregiver is no longer able to take care of them.
Certainly. Perfect. Thank you very much.
So this is a peek at our Dementia Care and Education campus, now under construction. If you drive by 44th Street and Indian School, actually Indianola, just south of Indian School, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have an assisted living for dementia patients, an inpatient care unit for dementia patients, an adult center for dementia patients. So say you need to go somewhere and you want them to be engaged and have fun. The neatest thing about this is right next door on the same campus to the adult center, we have a child care center. So preschoolers are going to interact, because do preschoolers have any clue when someone has dementia? No. And dementia patients respond to little kids. It's just innate. They're not afraid of them. They babble. Everybody's happy. It brings so much joy to everyone. So it's wonderful. And then you can see in the corner, there's a 2-story building. That one is our education center, and that's open to the entire community, teaching these behavior strategies that we would go into people's homes to do. We'll have experts there. We're going to have demonstration rooms to show you how to move or shower somebody who has dementia, the techniques to say, because think about it. If you're not really sure who someone is and they're taking your clothes off, you innately know that's not right. You don't even know why. You might fight them. But if there are strategies and ways, we have these big bath ponchos that are made out of towels. We put them over your head, the patient's head, and then we undress them. So they're covered. They shower with them on. So they're warm and it's heavy and comforting. So there are things we can do to help, and all those things will be demonstrated at the campus. So we hope to open in fall of next year. But I think it's gorgeous and it has a beautiful view of Camelback Mountain, so I had to share it.
Yeah, I've driven by there and I wondered what was going on. So that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great.
It's going to be one of the first of its kind in the nation, so we're really excited. So the other thing that we offer is mindfulness meditation. I don't know if anybody's ever done that, but it's the kind of meditation that's been scientifically proven to improve well-being. It reduces stress, and the parts of the brain that register pleasure and comfort actually grow with regular practice. So we have a free class for the whole community every Thursday at noon at Phoenix Art Museum. When it's gorgeous, we do it outside like this, and it's not usually that crowded. This was this was a special event that we had, so everybody in the world came. It's usually much more intimate, like a dozen people. And then when it's cold or too hot, we move it inside in front of art, which is also very gorgeous. But you just come in and say you want to do the free mindfulness. They give you a little sticker so you don't have to pay, and then you just enjoy it, and you're back to work by 1 o'clock.
And is that still going on even in COVID, or is that virtual, or that's still happening?
It's virtual.
Okay.
It's virtual now. Actually, we have virtual meditation several times now because people need it more. They're more anxious. So that's on our website, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later too.
So
we also offer,
I'm sorry, you might get to this, but a question has come up to differentiate between hospice care and palliative care.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. So hospice care is obviously at end of life, you're giving up curative. Palliative care is, so here's why it's confusing. The definition of palliative care is care that treats your symptoms, and manages your pain. So that's what we do in hospice. So palliative care covers curative, because when you're taking chemo, you need it. And when you're in hospice, you need it. So palliative care is the whole spectrum. When you're chronically ill, seriously ill, advanced illness, hospice. Hospice is at the very end, where we take the curative out of it. So really, palliative care is for the chronically ill person on their journey to hospice. But that kind of care carries on in hospice. So hopefully that made it clearer.
Yes, thank you.
The other thing we realized is a lot of times people don't have time to call hospice. You know, their son gets in a car wreck and is killed instantly. That doesn't mean they're not grieving. So you get automatically 13 months of bereavement with hospice, and you get 13 months because we want to get you past the 1-year anniversary of your loved one's death. But we also give community grief support in groups all around the valley so that they can heal as well, because not everyone has the opportunity to sign up for hospice, and we realized there was a huge need for it. Of course, during COVID, it looks like this. We're doing virtual grief support or telephonic. We will call you one-on-one if you were more comfortable one-on-one and not sharing your grief in a group quite yet. We can certainly do that, but it's still very, very intimate, very protected. You're invited into the group, and it does help our community heal. And because children process grief differently, you know, they don't cry. The little preschoolers bite their friend, grade schoolers, you know, pick a fight, high schoolers might start smoking pot and, you know, skip in class. We know that they need to be with other kids so they can say, oh, I'm not the only one without a mom. Oh, your dad died too. Oh, and it helps them. And so we do have a special program that's also free called New Song. And we want folks to know that they can take part in that. And we also have a Spanish version of it. Of course, now we're doing a lot of the groups by Zoom, and the activities that we normally would do, like story time, we're also doing virtually. Did we have a question? It looks like I just got something flashed. No?
Yeah, so the person asking about palliative versus hospice asked if you provide both, and I told her that you do. And I guess maybe as a follow-up, even though Bonnie didn't ask the follow-up question in the chat box, is how does one even sign up? Do you need a doctor's letter, or can you just call hospice and say this is what's going
yes,
on?
You can call us. Our palliative care program is called Supportive Care, Arizona Supportive Care. And that one is your insurance. You need insurance coverage for, and we're happy to call and reach out and see if we can get your insurance company to pay for it. Hospice, obviously, you don't need anything for, but the palliative care, which can go on for years ahead of time, and people need that. They need that 24-hour touch. If they need to call at 3 in the morning and a nurse needs to go out, that's what we provide, but that needs to be paid for by insurance. So, but you can call, find out if your insurance company is one of the insurance companies that contracts with us. And if not, we're happy to call and see if they will.
Excellent,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, sure. So this is the activities that we do, because we have lots of activities for New Song kids. We're doing things like story time virtually. We are so blessed because we have 2,100 volunteers. Do you know anybody that has 2,100 volunteers? It's amazing. They are so wonderful. They offer companionship, music therapy, pet therapy. They recognize our veterans. The list goes. They cook, they bake, they do so many things. So during COVID, obviously, they are not really making home visits. So our music therapy that used to be, you know, in rooms with patients or in their homes, or in assisted living, they're now outside on the lobbies, they're in the patios, they're virtual. We have videos that they can play in their room and hopefully feel like someone's there. And the same goes for our pet therapy. Oh, here, wait, this is a shot of them actually. There they are, out in the lobbies. You can see them outside or in a lobby of a group home where people can still hear with the doors open and still hear that beautiful therapeutic harp music. Okay, so we also have 70 pet teams. Most are dogs, but we do have a cat, a bunny, and if you look to the far left of your screen, a miniature horse named Lily. And they're just magical. They brighten everybody's mood. I'm not in this picture with mine, but I have a standard poodle who loves to make visits with me, and another one in training. But right now, the visits are virtual. This is one of our cute pet therapists. She made a mask that looks just like her dog. Is that adorable? But one of them did cutouts, and she's just delivering life-size cutouts of her dogs for people's rooms. And, you know, they're just doing little movies, and they'll get online and FaceTime and let the dogs run around. And it's just really sweet the way our volunteers are trying to make patients feel that loving touch. We have another program that's called Saluting Our Veterans, where we would go in, another veteran volunteer would go in and salute and do a tribute and talk to the veteran about his service. They present him with a flag and a pin, and family members all get to hear. It's really lovely. And they can talk about anything that might be on his mind as he's getting ready to end his life. A lot of times post-traumatic stress syndrome sets in, and they think about things that they're worried about their little spirit, what's going to happen to me and where am I going and all of that, and they're trained for that. But right now, those salutes visits are virtual, so this is what one end of it looks like on our end, and this is what it looks like on the other end. You know, they're at home. We've sent the pins and everything ahead of time, but they might be on their phone. Watching from home and speaking that way. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention those community volunteers like Linda. They are flooding our phone lines and writing us letters saying, what can we do? She happened to make us hundreds and hundreds of masks. Some are dropping groceries off at doorsteps of patients who just can't, you know, get to the grocery store. They're scared. They're writing cards, they're making well-wisher cards and cheering patients up. They're making phone calls, FaceTime visits, because patients are anxious and alone. I have a couple of friends and volunteers who are knitting these adorable little crochet hearts because what we decided to do was give them to so, you know, during COVID, you can't get into a group home or assisted living to see your loved one, in some cases since March. And so we give one of these to their loved one, and we give one to the caregiver. And when they hold it, they're thinking of each other. When they're talking on the phone, it's a way to feel connected. So just a sweet little way, you know, they're just thinking of anything they can do to give that little extra touch, which is so sweet. So what does our care look like during COVID? We've had to really adapt. Just like all the healthcare heroes everywhere, they are at risk themselves every single day and to their families because they're being exposed, but they're so dedicated to delivering the care. Even in the early days when we didn't know a lot about coronavirus and how it was spread, it was kind of scary. So for patients without the virus, our staff still has to take stringent safety precautions when they go into homes. They teach families how to take care of their loved ones during this crisis and to minimize exposure and keep everybody safe. There's just so much isolation and fear, and every single day, you know, they're facing this, and they go into these homes and they never miss a beat. It's pretty amazing. I think they know that now more than ever, our patients need us because as a rule, they're older. They're more frightened about this pandemic. Their only source of news is what's scary on the television. And sometimes our care teams are literally the only visitor they have if their families don't live in state. This is Mark. He's one of our certified nursing assistants who helps people with bathing and activities of daily living and house cleaning and such. He told me, he says that our patients now are more hungry than ever for human interaction. He can just feel it. And I think one of the hardest things is the masks, because patients can only see eyes now. They don't see the smiles that, you know, all of our care teams always bring. I mean, I think you can kind of see their smiles under their masks in their eyes, but people really do miss seeing that smile. So it's really hard. And of course, all of our care team members are wearing gloves. So you can see he has his gloves on, the CNA. And so you're missing that other dimension, which is human touch, the power of human touch, skin to skin. So they're really having to work hard to talk through those masks and touch hard through the gloves so people feel them. I love this picture because our care team members washed their hands just so they could hold hands with this patient who has dementia and was very distressed by the gloves, didn't understand what was happening. But despite all these precautions, it's really cool because our teams are still finding ways to celebrate milestone birthdays. So this little lady in the wheelchair is 100 years old. She was a pitcher. If you guys watched the movie A League of Their Own, She was a pitcher in one of the teams on the girls, All-American Girls Baseball League way back. And she turned 100 years old, and so we had the community send her all these cards. We had a drive-by. That's why she's out front. Even the fire department drove their fire truck by. So our teams are still doing what they can safely to have a party outside. This couple celebrated their 70th anniversary a couple of weeks ago. I can't even imagine. 70 years, 7 decades they've been together. Really cute. We asked them what the secret to a long marriage was, and she said, never go to bed mad. And even if you can't talk about it, when you go to bed, hold hands until you fall asleep. Isn't that sweet? Just darling. Here's another picture I just had to include. This is our care team who was caring for a patient who was in one of our inpatient units with pneumonia. On the day before he was going to be discharged to go back home, he was told by his apartment complex that there was a bed bug infestation. So our care team went in after work. They stripped his house. They washed everything in the laundromat while it was being fumigated. And then they arranged for him to stay at our inpatient unit longer till the fumes dissipated. And then they made his bed and put all his clothes back in his room for him. So they're still doing these things that they normally do, even though they're doing it with a mask on. They're just amazing. They live in those masks 10 hours a day. And they've learned how to communicate with their eyes, how to be strong for anxious patients, and also how to be there for each other, because it's really, really grueling. This is one of our 9 inpatient units, and we care for those who come and need round-the-clock care. They can be there for, I think, 3 to 5 days Medicare will pay for to get something under control before they return home. And the nurses there are doing what all the nurses that are doing are going into assisted living facilities. They're reassuring, they're calming, they're just caring. There are even visits, like this chaplain visit when a patient doesn't even know that we're there. This man's sister requested a blessing for her brother and he passed away a day later. But that's what they're doing. And of course, our chaplain is in a mask. And as the pandemic got worse, we converted 2 of our 9 inpatient units into COVID units, where only COVID patients would go and where families could visit. And that was what was so amazing. No hospital, skilled nursing facility, group home, anything could let family be at the bedside but us. So we actually had people saying in the hospital, my father's going to pass. I want him to go to one of Hospice of the Valley's inpatient units so our family can visit him before he goes. And it was really, really beautiful. So our nurses were at the bedside. They're making sure that, family members knew they were getting good care and that they could come visit whenever they want. Of course, we had to dress family members in PPE. This is what they look like, but they got to go in and they could be with their loved ones in those last moments and say goodbye. So it's really been an amazing thing. Somebody came by one of our inpatient units and put the sign up outside. We don't know who they were, but just such a lovely tribute to our hospice teams who would say, we're not heroes, but I beg to differ. I have one last photo to show you of somebody in a mask. This is one of our White Dove thrift stores where I mentioned at the top we can go and get items for patients in need. This is also one of the ways that our community helps us provide $10 million in charity care, because every single time somebody shops or donates at one of our White Dove stores, so take a look at which one's closest to you, it does support charity care for those who don't have Medicare or insurance. And there are amazing bargains there. I got a Coach bag, gently used, for $47, and when I went to pay for it, because I couldn't believe it was only $47, they said, oh, good for you, it's half off day. So I paid $23, whatever that is, $23.50. I felt like I had just robbed the store. I actually went back and shopped some more, but some great bargains. And of course we love it if you donate and shop there. We do have a Facebook page and we post all kinds of stuff so you can see what we're up to. We also have an Instagram page where we do the same thing. This is a symphony quintet that comes and plays at our dementia home. beautiful thing for them. Not right now, but they will hopefully start up again as soon as COVID is over. And I know I went really fast, so if there's anything else you want to know, hov.org is our website. And, you know, it might be hard to navigate and figure out where to go on that page, but if you scroll down that blue bar on the left, that navigate, there is a search bar, and you can type in palliative care or something like that, and it will click, and then you can click on it. And if nothing else, the easiest way to get help is just to call us, because we are the only hospice that has a real person and has live nurses 24/7. So you can always talk to a nurse. You can always call us. 2 in the morning, Christmas Day. We don't have an answering machine. We just don't. We never have. So we're always happy to answer your questions. It could be a simple little question. It could be a super urgent need. You're always welcome to call us. And I would be absolutely delighted to answer any other questions people might have, because I know that was kind of fast.
That was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Well, I hope everybody learned one thing they didn't know.
Definitely. I had no idea that there were so many different programs. So even though I've been doing this for 20 something years, I always learn something new that's out there, another resource that I was unaware of that we can pass along to our clients. So
great.
So a really common, one of the comments is that was an awesome presentation, and that this person learned a lot of new information, so you should feel good. You don't get to see everybody clap or smile. So a question that comes up a lot when we hear from clients is whether, like, do they have to get a doctor's note in order to start, or how do you get the process started? Because oftentimes doctors, I think, are shy about bringing it up, fearful that the patient will feel that then you must think I'm going to die tomorrow. So kind of how would a member of the community get this process started?
Yeah, and it's so true. They do feel like if I say the word hospice, they're going to think I'm giving up on them. And so the irony can be that sending them to hospice could actually make them live longer. I mean, if it's at the right point in their care where pursuing something more, you know, saying, oh yes, you can fight this, you can fight this, when they wouldn't tell their own mother that, because it would end their life sooner and make it more miserable for them. It's very hard. So Medicare actually about 2 years ago said, we will pay you, doctors, if you will have that end of life discussion. We will actually reimburse you for that as a service. So it's a little bit better to have that conversation now, but still they're reluctant to do it. So it can happen with a very lovely doctor who is going to sit you down and say, I would tell my mom this, let's look at this. It can also be a loved one who says, I think my mom is not doing so well, and I think she might do well on hospice. They call us. The patient themselves can call and say, my family wants me to keep fighting, but I don't. I want to be on comfort care. Then our care teams can go to the doctor and get a referral. So you do need a doctor's referral, and you do need to qualify. And the doctor referring you means that you qualify. But, and the referral can originate anywhere. Doctor, friend, a friend can say, my neighbor has no family, but they need hospice. Can you reach out to them and find out who their doctor is? We're happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the other questions that I hear a lot is people still seem to be confused about where hospice happens, no matter how many times you say that hospice doesn't have to be a place. You know, you all obviously have an inpatient hospice unit. You're building this gorgeous campus to take care of people. So can you just talk a little bit about where hospice can happen?
Yeah, you're so right. So the root word of hospice is a Latin word for hospitality. It's like hospices or something. And when you think about it, and it also has to do with people on a journey, making them comfortable. Well, how ironic, you're on your final journey and you are making people comfortable in the comfort of their home. So when you think about hospitality, that's what hospice is. It's making people comfortable in their own home. So hospice is a philosophy of care that comes to you wherever you live. your daughter's home, your own home, a group home, assisted living, skilled nursing facility, memory care unit. Wherever you live, we come to you. The care teams come to you. For those who need round-the-clock, short-term interventional care, they have pneumonia, they got an infection, and the infection, like some silly urinary tract infection, could kill them, not cancer. We don't want that to happen. You still have life to enjoy. You come to the inpatient unit, and Medicare does cover a short stay for that, and they take care of you there. We have 9 inpatient units. We're the only hospice in Arizona that has inpatient units, and we have 9 of them. And then as soon as you are stabilized, we return you home, because everybody wants to pass in the comfort of their own home, in their own bed, with their dog at their feet, you know, and their family by their side. So really, hospice comes to you, and that is our goal. There are people who are in the hospital and too fragile to move, and they call us 48 hours before they pass. We provide hospice care in the hospital. So it does happen wherever you happen to be, but our goal is to have you pass at home.
And do you know, oh, this is a great question. I was going to ask something similar. So it says, if families decide to move their loved one from one state to another state, do you provide services out of state, or would you accept that referral if somebody was coming into the state of Arizona?
So we would accept anything, because we take everyone regardless of insurance. So if they came from Minnesota and they only had Minnesota insurance, it doesn't matter to us. Of course, we would accept them. We only serve Maricopa County and Northern Pinal County. So we don't have a hospice affiliation anywhere else. But we can help. If you're moving someone, we certainly can help. And we would probably recommend a nonprofit hospice, but it doesn't really matter. Wherever the family wants to go, to have them provide the hospice, we can certainly make the phone calls and let them know they've been on hospice care here. We have helped families do that, because sometimes they're just a winter visitor, and then they want to go home, and they're healthy enough to do that, but they still need hospice care there. So we do work with out-of-state providers, and then as soon as they come back, they're back on our service.
Another question people have asked me is, if somebody went, you had talked about this at the beginning, but if somebody was on hospice and then they went off of hospice for whatever reason that might be, they can go back on even if it's for a different illness. So maybe they had cancer and they were able to recover, and then heaven forbid they have some other terminal illness. As you said, there's not a certain number of days or hours, right, budgeted within Medicare?
No, your hospice benefit waits for you, and it doesn't run out. Now, the one caveat to that is sometimes some people will come onto hospice because they have, say, cancer, and they actually go into remission while they're in hospice. And they are so healthy after 6 months of care that they don't actually qualify for hospice anymore. So then we call it graduate. Yeah. They graduate off service, but their hospice benefit is waiting for them if the cancer were to kick back in and they need us again. So there is no time limit. Medicare realizes that you can't put everybody on a schedule to die. Everyone's body is different, and you don't need to worry about it running out. If you need it, you will have it.
So another question came in to ask whether the patient would still be able to get, for example, physical therapy and still be on hospice benefits. You know?
So that physical therapy is not a curative treatment. So yes, you still get that. And when you're on our palliative program, we actually work with other providers to bring podiatry or therapy or ear checkups or eye doctors to you. So there's different services and different ways that we can help. We have a service called Geriatric Solutions, which is really the old-fashioned doctor comes to you house calls, where your insurance pays for it, but the doctor knocks on your door and actually comes to you, because they're either very frail. It takes 2 or 3 people to get them in a vehicle and drive them and unload the wheelchair and all that, and it's just too hard. So we have a Geriatric Solutions program that does that.
And do you have any idea what the average amount of time is that somebody is on hospice services?
So there's really no easy way for us to do that because we cared for 19,000 patients and then also their families last year. And some came to us within hours of passing, and some were with us for years. So to average it isn't really a good number, but we can tell you that as we've seen in recent years, people coming to hospice later and later and later, because more of them are pursuing curative treatment longer. Medicine is better, and so they feel like there's more options. I think sometimes physicians take that vow of healing very seriously, and they're going to heal as long as they think they can heal with the treatment. And it may or may not be the best course. Every family has to kind of decide that for themselves. But and there is still a lot of ignorance and fear about hospice care, that they'll be trapped and that their life will be shortened and hastened. Hospice is the opposite. We don't want to cheat you out of any of your life. That's euthanasia. It's illegal, and we don't do it. It's about the curative treatment is actually going to be more detrimental to you than the comfort care. And so we want to be there to support you during the comfort care stage.
Great. So I have a question that's sort of two parts related. So the question is whether diabetic management and also things like flu shots or other immunizations, are those considered curative, or could somebody be on hospice and still have their, diabetes managed, and if it's flu season, then still get a flu shot?
Yeah, those are not curative. Yeah, those are not curative. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all fantastic questions that came in. I thought
They
they were all going to have
good
to come from me, and people came up with some excellent questions.
Yeah, they're wonderful questions.
So
yeah,
what are the other...
there are patients that are obviously on dialysis
Mhm.
and hospice, so they need that to stay alive. So
Yeah, I think sometimes figuring out what's curative, what's pain management,
yeah,
right, is sometimes difficult for those of us who are not in the medical profession to know kind of where that
and
lies.
those are clinical questions too that I'm not clinical, but so if they have something like really specific, you can just call that number that's on the screen right now and just say, hey, I just heard a presentation about Hospice of the Valley, and I have some questions about whether my loved one could be on hospice and have this or this or this. Who could you have me talk to? And they'll put a nurse on the phone with you.
Well, that's wonderful. This has been a phenomenally interesting and educational presentation. And again, I'm just honored because I feel like I'm with a star. So thank you. Thank you so much. We do send a survey out afterwards as part of the follow-up from Zoom. So those of you who are participating, if you would be kind enough to answer, that would be great. And I've had 2 people ask if we can share the PowerPoint. So I'm going to ask Lin Sue to try to send it to our office again, because if we have it, we are more than happy to share it. The presentation is taped, and so the link will be shared, I'm sure, at Hospice of the Valley. We'll have it on our website. So that will definitely be available to watch it again. But as long as we can get the presentation, we are more than happy to send it to anybody who emails to our office. Or I'm sure you can email to Lin Sue or over to HOV, and they would be happy to share it as well. So
yes. My email is super easy. It's lcooney@hov.org. So lcooney@hov.org. And Emily, it was such a pleasure. I really want people to know about all the resources that are available to them, because I think it breaks all of our hearts when people don't know that they could be helped. They think I can't afford it, or that there is a service that helps people that are pregnant with a child that's not going to survive. I didn't know that. Those are all things where I need to get my mom into a safe place, and I can't afford this. We just want you to know we do that. Just call us.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. I hope everybody stays safe and healthy, that your families are safe and healthy, and that somewhere at some time in the future, we'll have the opportunity to hug and shake each other's hands once again. So thank you so much, Lin Sue. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for participating, and we will see you at our next presentation, hopefully, for those of you who'd like to join us. So take care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.